Critical Thinking by Nicole Price and Simon is a thought-provoking exploration of how we can harness the power of our minds to make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and navigate the complexities of modern life. This book provides a practical guide to developing and refining your critical thinking skills, empowering you to approach challenges with clarity, logic, and creativity. Ready for mastering your mindset? Let's dive in. Critical Thinking Summary. In a world filled with information, opinions, and decisions to make, the ability to think critically is more important than ever. But what does it mean to be a critical thinker? How can we sharpen our minds to cut through the noise and focus on what truly matters? In Critical Thinking, Nicole Price and Simon break down the concept of critical thinking into actionable steps and strategies, offering readers a roadmap to improve their decision-making abilities, enhance their problem-solving skills, and develop a more analytical mindset. Critical thinking isn't just about logic and reasoning. It's also about being open-minded, reflective, and willing to challenge your own assumptions. Throughout the book, Price and Simon emphasize that critical thinking is a skill that can be developed and honed over time. Whether you're a student, professional, or simply someone looking to improve your mental acuity, critical thinking provides the tools you need to think more clearly and effectively. Chapter 1. Understanding Critical Thinking. To begin our journey into critical thinking, we first need to understand what it really means. Price and Simon start by defining critical thinking as the ability to analyze information objectively and make reasoned judgments. It's about evaluating evidence, identifying biases, and considering alternative perspectives. Critical thinking is not just about being skeptical or critical of others. It's also about being willing to scrutinize your own beliefs and assumptions. One of the key aspects of critical thinking is recognizing the difference between facts and opinions. In a world where opinions are often presented as facts, it's crucial to be able to distinguish between the two. Price and Simon stress the importance of questioning the sources of information, examining the evidence presented, and being aware of potential biases that may influence how information is presented. Another important component of critical thinking is the ability to identify logical fallacies. Logical fallacies are errors in reasoning that can undermine the validity of an argument. Price and Simon introduce readers to common fallacies, such as ad hominem attacks, straw man arguments, and false dilemmas. By learning to recognize these fallacies, you can avoid being swayed by flawed arguments and make more informed decisions. Critical thinking also involves understanding the role of emotions in decision-making. While emotions are an essential part of being human, they can sometimes cloud our judgment and lead us to make irrational decisions. Price and Simon discuss the importance of emotional intelligence in critical thinking, emphasizing the need to be aware of your emotions and how they may be influencing your thoughts and decisions. Analysis. Understanding the fundamentals of critical thinking is the first step in developing this essential skill. Price and Simon's emphasis on the importance of distinguishing between facts and opinions is particularly relevant in today's information-saturated world. By learning to evaluate the credibility of sources and recognize logical fallacies, readers can begin to think more critically about the information they encounter. The discussion of emotions in decision-making is also important because it acknowledges that critical thinking is not just about logic and reasoning. It's also about being aware of how our emotions can influence our judgments. By developing emotional intelligence, readers can become more effective critical thinkers and make more rational decisions. Chapter 2. The Importance of Open-Mindedness. Critical thinking requires an open mind. In this chapter, Price and Simon explore the concept of open-mindedness and its role in critical thinking. They argue that being open-minded means being willing to consider new ideas, perspectives, and evidence, even if they challenge your existing beliefs. One of the biggest obstacles to open-mindedness is confirmation bias, the tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring or dismissing information that contradicts them. Price and Simon emphasize the importance of being aware of confirmation bias and actively working to counteract it by seeking out diverse perspectives and challenging your assumptions. Another key aspect of open-mindedness is the ability to change your mind when presented with new evidence. Price and Simon discuss the importance of intellectual humility, the recognition that you don't have all the answers and that you may be wrong. By being willing to admit when you're wrong and adjust your beliefs accordingly, you can become a more effective critical thinker. The authors also highlight the importance of curiosity in critical thinking. Curiosity drives us to ask questions, explore new ideas, and seek out new information. By cultivating a sense of curiosity, you can develop a more open-minded and inquisitive approach to thinking. Analysis. Open-mindedness is a crucial component of critical thinking because it allows us to consider new ideas and perspectives, even when they challenge our existing beliefs. Price and Simon's emphasis on the dangers of confirmation bias is particularly relevant because it highlights how easily we can fall into the trap of only seeking out information that confirms our views. By being aware of this bias and actively seeking out diverse perspectives, readers can become more open-minded and develop a more balanced approach to thinking. The discussion of intellectual humility is also important because it encourages readers to be willing to change their minds when presented with new evidence. This is a key aspect of critical thinking because it allows us to update our beliefs and make better decisions based on the most accurate and up-to-date information available. Chapter 3. Developing Analytical Skills. At the heart of critical thinking is the ability to analyze information and break it down into its component parts. In this chapter, Price and Simon explore the importance of developing strong analytical skills and provide practical strategies for doing so. One of the key strategies for developing analytical skills is learning to ask the right questions. Price and Simon emphasize the importance of asking questions that dig deeper into the information presented. Instead of accepting information at face value, critical thinkers ask questions like, what evidence supports this claim? What are the assumptions behind this argument? And what are the potential counterarguments? Another important aspect of analytical thinking is the ability to identify patterns and relationships within data. Price and Simon discuss the importance of looking for trends, correlations, and causal relationships when analyzing information. By identifying these patterns, you can gain a deeper understanding of the underlying factors at play and make more informed decisions. The authors also highlight the importance of breaking down complex problems into smaller, more manageable parts. This process, known as decomposition, allows you to tackle each part of the problem individually, making it easier to analyze and solve. Price and Simon provide practical examples of how to use decomposition to approach complex problems in both personal and professional contexts. In addition to these strategies, Price and Simon discuss the importance of using logic and reasoning to evaluate arguments. They introduce readers to the concept of deductive and inductive reasoning, explaining how these methods can be used to draw logical conclusions based on evidence. By understanding the principles of logic, readers can develop stronger analytical skills and become more effective critical thinkers. Analysis. Developing strong analytical skills is essential for critical thinking because it allows us to break down information, identify patterns, and evaluate arguments more effectively. Price and Simon's emphasis on asking the right questions is particularly valuable because it encourages readers to dig deeper into the information presented and avoid accepting things at face value. The discussion of decomposition is also important because it provides a practical strategy for tackling complex problems. By breaking down problems into smaller parts, readers can make the analysis process more manageable and increase their chances of finding effective solutions. Finally, the introduction to deductive and inductive reasoning provides readers with a solid foundation in logic, which is essential for evaluating arguments and making sound decisions. By understanding these principles, readers can develop stronger analytical skills and become more effective critical thinkers. Chapter 4. The Role of Creativity in Critical Thinking. While critical thinking is often associated with logic and reasoning, creativity also plays a crucial role in the process. In this chapter, Price and Simon explore the intersection of creativity and critical thinking and discuss how the two can complement each other. One of the key points the authors make is that creativity is not just about artistic expression, it's also about finding new and innovative solutions to problems. Critical thinking and creativity work hand in hand because critical thinking allows us to evaluate and refine creative ideas, while creativity allows us to generate new ideas and approaches. Price and Simon discuss several strategies for fostering creativity in the context of critical thinking. One of these strategies is lateral thinking, which involves approaching problems from different angles and considering unconventional solutions. By thinking outside the box, you can come up with creative solutions that you might not have considered otherwise. Another strategy for fostering creativity is to embrace ambiguity and uncertainty. Price and Simon argue that creativity often thrives in situations where the outcome is uncertain and there are no clear answers. By being open to ambiguity and willing to explore different possibilities, you can develop a more creative approach to problem solving. The authors also highlight the importance of collaboration in fostering creativity. Working with others allows you to combine different perspectives, experiences, and ideas, leading to more creative solutions. Price and Simon suggest that by engaging in collaborative brainstorming sessions and seeking input from others, you can enhance your creative thinking skills and generate more innovative ideas. Analysis. Creativity is a vital component of critical thinking because it allows us to generate new ideas and approaches to problems. Price and Simon's emphasis on lateral thinking and embracing ambiguity is particularly valuable because it encourages readers to think outside the box and explore different possibilities. The discussion of collaboration is also important because it recognizes the value of diverse perspectives in the creative process. By working with others and seeking input from different sources, readers can enhance their creativity and develop more innovative solutions to the challenges they face. Chapter 5. Decision-Making and Problem-Solving. Critical thinking is ultimately about making better decisions and solving problems more effectively. In this chapter, Price and Simon explore the decision-making and problem-solving process and provide practical strategies for applying critical thinking to these areas. One of the key strategies for effective decision-making is to gather and evaluate relevant information before making a choice. Price and Simon emphasize the importance of conducting thorough research, considering different options, and weighing the pros and cons of each alternative. By taking the time to gather and analyze information, you can make more informed decisions and reduce the risk of making mistakes. Another important aspect of decision-making is the ability to anticipate potential consequences. Price and Simon discuss the importance of considering both the short-term and long-term effects of your decisions. By thinking ahead and evaluating the potential outcomes, you can make choices that align with your goals and values. The authors also highlight the importance of avoiding common decision-making pitfalls, such as overconfidence, impulsiveness, and analysis paralysis. Price and Simon provide practical tips for overcoming these obstacles, such as setting clear criteria for decision-making, seeking input from others, and being willing to make decisions in the face of uncertainty. When it comes to problem-solving, Price and Simon emphasize the importance of a systematic approach. They introduce readers to the ideal problem-solving model, which stands for identify the problem, define the problem, explore possible solutions, act on the chosen solution, and look back and evaluate the results. By following this model, you can approach problems in a structured and logical way, increasing your chances of finding effective solutions. Analysis. Effective decision-making and problem-solving are the ultimate goals of critical thinking, and Price and Simon provide readers with practical strategies for achieving these goals. The emphasis on gathering and evaluating information is particularly valuable because it encourages readers to make informed decisions rather than relying on gut instincts or assumptions. The discussion of anticipating potential consequences is also important because it recognizes the importance of thinking ahead and considering the long-term impact of your decisions. By taking a proactive approach to decision-making, readers can make choices that align with their goals and values. Finally, the introduction to the ideal problem-solving model provides readers with a structured approach to problem-solving that can be applied to a wide range of situations. By following this model, readers can develop a more systematic and effective approach to solving problems. Chapter 6. Overcoming Cognitive Biases. Even the most experienced critical thinkers are not immune to cognitive biases, the mental shortcuts and errors in thinking that can lead to flawed judgments and decisions. In this chapter, Price and Simon explore some of the most common cognitive biases and provide strategies for overcoming them. One of the most well-known cognitive biases is the availability heuristic, which involves making judgments based on the information that is most readily available. Price and Simon discuss how this bias can lead to overestimating the likelihood of events that are more memorable or recent, while underestimating the likelihood of less memorable events. To overcome this bias, the authors suggest seeking out additional information and considering a broader range of possibilities. Another common cognitive bias is the anchoring effect, which occurs when we rely too heavily on the first piece of information we receive, the anchor, when making decisions. Price and Simon provide examples of how this bias can influence our judgments and suggest strategies for counteracting it, such as considering multiple sources of information and being aware of the potential influence of anchors. The authors also discuss the confirmation bias, which we touched on earlier, the tendency to seek out information that confirms our existing beliefs while ignoring or dismissing information that contradicts them. Price and Simon emphasize the importance of being aware of this bias and actively seeking out diverse perspectives and alternative viewpoints. In addition to these biases, Price and Simon explore other cognitive biases, such as the hindsight bias, the framing effect, and the self-serving bias. For each bias, the authors provide practical strategies for recognizing and overcoming them, such as questioning your assumptions, considering different perspectives, and being open to feedback. Analysis. Cognitive biases are a significant obstacle to critical thinking, and Price and Simon's exploration of these biases provides readers with valuable insights into how they can influence our judgments and decisions. The emphasis on recognizing and overcoming cognitive biases is particularly important because it encourages readers to be more mindful of their thinking processes and to question their assumptions. The strategies provided for overcoming cognitive biases are also valuable because they offer practical ways to counteract these biases and make more objective and rational decisions. By being aware of these biases and actively working to overcome them, readers can develop stronger critical thinking skills and make better decisions. Chapter 7. Applying Critical Thinking in Everyday Life. The final chapter of Critical Thinking by Nicole Price and Simon focuses on applying critical thinking skills in everyday life. The authors emphasize that critical thinking is not just a theoretical concept, it's a practical skill that can be used to improve your personal and professional life. One of the key areas where critical thinking can be applied is in decision-making. Price and Simon provide examples of how critical thinking can be used to make better decisions in various aspects of life, such as career choices, financial decisions, and personal relationships. By applying critical thinking to these areas, you can make more informed and thoughtful decisions that align with your goals and values. Another area where critical thinking can be applied is in problem solving. Price and Simon discuss how critical thinking can be used to approach problems in a more systematic and logical way, leading to more effective solutions. They provide practical examples of how to apply critical thinking to common challenges, such as time management, conflict resolution, and project planning. The authors also highlight the importance of critical thinking in communication. Whether you're writing an email, giving a presentation, or having a conversation, critical thinking can help you communicate more clearly and persuasively. Price and Simon provide tips for using critical thinking to analyze your audience, organize your thoughts, and present your ideas in a compelling way. Finally, Price and Simon emphasize the importance of continuous learning and self-improvement in developing your critical thinking skills. They encourage readers to seek out new experiences, challenge their assumptions, and engage in activities that stimulate their minds, such as reading, journaling, and engaging in thoughtful discussions. Analysis. The emphasis on applying critical thinking in everyday life is a fitting conclusion to the book because it highlights the practical value of critical thinking. Price and Simon's examples of how critical thinking can be applied to decision-making, problem-solving, and communication provide readers with concrete ways to use critical thinking to improve their lives. The discussion of continuous learning and self-improvement is also important because it recognizes that critical thinking is a skill that can be developed and refined over time. By engaging in activities that stimulate your mind and challenge your assumptions, you can continue to grow as a critical thinker and improve your ability to make informed and thoughtful decisions. Final summary. Critical Thinking by Nicole Price and Simon is a comprehensive guide to developing and refining your critical thinking skills. Through a combination of practical strategies and psychological insights, the authors provide readers with the tools they need to think more clearly, make better decisions, and solve problems more effectively. One of the key takeaways from the book is that critical thinking is a skill that can be developed and honed over time. By understanding the fundamentals of critical thinking, being open-minded, developing strong analytical skills, fostering creativity, and overcoming cognitive biases, readers can become more effective critical thinkers and navigate the complexities of modern life with greater clarity and confidence. Throughout the book, Price and Simon emphasize the importance of applying critical thinking in everyday life. Whether you're making a decision, solving a problem, or communicating your ideas, critical thinking can help you approach challenges in a more systematic and logical way, leading to better outcomes. Whether you're a student, professional, or simply someone looking to improve your mental acuity, critical thinking provides a roadmap for success. By applying the principles and strategies outlined in the book, you can develop the critical thinking skills needed to make better decisions, solve problems more effectively, and lead a more thoughtful and intentional life.